How I feel about waking up on a Monday can teach me a lot about how I feel in my life. Many years ago, I made a commitment to myself that I would design a life where I was excited to wake up on a Monday. Every other day too, but Monday was a cornerstone, the foundation to build the right habits and mindset to fuel my human potential. Those Mondays kept me growing, they kept me focused, they built my belief in myself. So this one's for every Monday yet to come, I guess. Most people know me as the dude on the internet that travels with his friends and makes carefree videos about it. And not a lot of people know that I've been building things since I was 14. And this year I stepped away from two quote unquote successful businesses to basically go incomeless, spent 5 months traveling, and now I'm about to launch the thing that I think is the holy grail of business for me. It's the way I leave my mark on the world and the thing I'm going to be spending the next 10 years of my life working on. So this is the first episode in a weekly series that I don't have a name for yet, something like Monday Diaries or Art of Mondays. I'll come up with that later, but I'm sitting here, just got back from a trip over Christmas to see family, and it's a total mess, but that was the whole point behind this, is to drop the perfectionism and just sit down and talk once a week, mostly about the exploration of self and the process of building, physically, spiritually, mentally, and of course in business. I've never really shared this side of me in a public forum before, so welcome. I'm glad you're here and I hope you stay. Why am I doing this? Well, number one is to look back on and document my journey in life. Number two is it's the best way for me to talk authentically about the things I believe in and what I'm working on behind the scenes, and it's the ultimate form of trust building. I hope that by you watching this, you understand me a little bit better, and at some point in the future, there's opportunities for us going forwards. So for those who don't know me, my name is Jai. I am from Australia and I grew up in a tiny little island off the coast, but for the last 4 or 5 years I've been based in Perth, Western Australia. So about 4 or 5 years ago, I was late teens. I was sort of working in the creative space, freelancing, and I started a company called Brand Booster, which was essentially a creative agency where we helped e-commerce brands produce mostly video ads for their socials and whatnot. And that journey led me really deep into the world of business. I'd had a few projects prior to that, but nothing really that serious. So I based myself here in Perth and ended up building a team of 12 or 13 people in-house. We had a studio, warehouse thing, and we had a lot of fun building that. It was very collaborative and creative and young and fulfilling for me. The first 2 years were really fast growth. We were doing $1 million a year in revenue with the agency, and whilst I don't think the numbers really matter that much, it's important for the sake of this story. What ended up happening was we plateaued a couple of years in. Things were still fine, but expenses were through the roof. We had a lot of people on payroll. We had the cost of the warehouse. We had a whole bunch of other things and equipment and whatnot. And I was 22, 23, totally naive, but just super willing to learn. I wanted to grow fast, hire people, know what it's like to fire people, to fail, to get over it and keep moving. And I guess I got to do a lot of those things. And somewhere around that third year, we lost a couple $100,000 that I didn't have at the time. I was literally net negative after a whole year of business, and it rocked me to my core. It was like, we had a few times actually where I had to come up with $15,000 or $20,000 to make payroll that week and pay our people, and that sort of pressure was totally self-induced. But the tough thing was I was doing it solo. I was a solo founder. I was really fortunate to have a couple of close people in my life that I could turn to for things like that, to get advice, to get ideas, to just say, hey, everything's fucked today, and they're just like, yeah, everything's fucked for me too. To just have someone to hear you. Anyway, 7 or 8 months later than I should have, we let go of a couple of people. We let go of the studio, which held a lot of identity to. I felt like that gave me worth. That gave me, people looked at that and they thought I was cool and they thought I was of value to them, which was totally just ego stepping in the way. And anyway, I worked through that and we leaned down and we became profitable again. It became a great business again, and ran that for another year. And I read a book called The Way of the Superior Man. There was a chapter in there that talked about a man's purpose in life and how it was like an onion, and every layer of the onion is your purpose for that period of time. And as you peel back the layers, as you fulfill each purpose, you get closer to your true purpose, whatever that might be for you. and just suddenly like a switch went off in my mind, and I was like, Brand Booster was just my purpose at that point in life, and I was ready to move on from it. So we closed the doors, we stopped accepting new brands. It seemed quite sudden for a lot of people that had followed my journey at that point, but it was very serendipitous and meant to happen. And one thing I haven't mentioned is on the side, I had co-founded an e-commerce brand. So the plan was always to go agency first and use that to fund e-commerce and kind of build a bit more lifestyle and freedom into what I was doing. So the brand was called Naming This Later, still exists today. And what ended up happening was I stepped away from Brand Booster to basically focus fully on that. I'd been working on it probably 1 day a week for the 1.5 to 2 years prior to that. It was probably about a similar size to the agency at that point, and just the right opportunity to step into. So coincidentally, at the same time, I set off on a one-way ticket around the world. I spent 5 of the last 6 months abroad, traveling mostly in Europe, Spain, Portugal. Went over to Africa for a bit, came by Indonesia, and ended up going back to Europe again, but that's another story. So I was working on this e-commerce brand, and then I got to a point there where there was a mushroom journey. There was a lot more context to this story, but what ended up happening was I called up my co-founder, who is also my best friend, and I said to him, look, you should have this. I'm gonna go do something else. And he was like, okay, you go do that, man. And so I did. I basically went all in on my personal brand, and then this new thing. And the reason this idea came about is, I reflected on the last years that I'd had in business as a founder, just as a human developing. You realize how much people matter in life. People and relationships are the reason you get fulfillment. It's not the place that's amazing, it's the people that you're there with. Early this year, I spent a month in Portugal with 7 or 8 other founders. We lived in a house together, we ate the same food, we trained together, we worked online together, and there's so much camaraderie and ambition in a room, and you come out of that feeling so alive, and there's such a strong support network for you in your journey. And I was like, why does this not exist for the broader world, or particularly for founders, lifestyle founders? Why do they not get the same benefit? They might have a friend or two, but no one that you can truly go deep and vulnerable in conversation with and talk about the shit that's blowing up in your face, or talk about the numbers and talk about the big wins and celebrate together. So basically I went to the drawing board. I had a few references, and I said I want to bring these people together. And on January 1st, 2024, which is only a few days away, I'm launching a company called Art of Mondays. It's really a tribute to the notion that you should wake up on a Monday and love what you do. When I was 18 and sitting at my desk working 10, 11 hours straight on my laptop, making $0 for like a year straight. I'm not even exaggerating that point. $0 for a year straight. And I just kept showing up. And I just kept showing up because I knew I was onto something. I knew there was opportunity coming. But I used to tell myself that Monday would be my favorite day of the week, because Monday, most people had a negative connotation to. It was, work week, I have to get up. For me, as long as Monday was my favorite day of the week, everything else would be okay. I guess that's worked out so far. So Art of Mondays is the company, and this concept is totally in soft launch phase. This is the first time I'm publicly sharing it. We actually already have our first handful of members inside. It's an annual membership of a few $1,000s, depending on when you're watching this video. The first thing that I'm bringing into the world is a highly vetted, exclusive community for lifestyle founders. Kind of like group therapy, if you want to put it that way, but really it's so much deeper. Basically getting founders who value lifestyle, value freedom of time, of location. Their business is a vehicle for building the life that they want to live. Bringing those people into rooms together, pairing them up with other founders of similar caliber, similar stage of business, and hosting facilitated monthly calls, particularly focused on building great businesses. There's also going to be the broader community online where you can connect with everyone that's a member. It's like a club, if you want to put it that way. Share resources and be in specific group chats, to do with your industry, whether it's e-commerce, whether you're a creative founder, whether you're in SaaS or software. And then the third part of it, which I'm potentially most excited for, is the in-person stuff, because relationships just become so much deeper when they're in person. You live in a house or a room with someone for 7 days, you know a very different side to them. And I think that's the beauty in the in-person stuff. So we'll do in-person dinners and catch-ups and events, but also co-living houses, so spending a month in locations around the world with other founders who think like you do, they're big thinkers, and see where the magic can come from that. So Art of Mondays, that is the thing that I'm most excited for the next 10 years. Yeah, it has been stealth mode so far. I've spoken to hundreds and hundreds of people in my network about this idea to build an MVP that people actually want and find value from. And I'm very excited for this first iteration. So more on that to come, more in my journey as a founder, but in life as well. There's so many thoughts and things that I believe that I just don't get an opportunity to speak to people about unless it's in person or a more intimate conversation. So I hope you return, I hope you find value, and I hope you start fucking with Mondays too. See you in the next one.